Thank you so much. At this time, we'll move on in our presentation.
Okay, thank you. I'm still on paper, so we're going to move to page 28. And basically, this is letting you know where we're going from here and lessons learned. And I think I mentioned to you what we thought would be extremely simple. It is from a technical perspective, but it's more complicated or comprehensive, might be a better word, from a philosophical process. So when we put this in, I mentioned philosophically what we were looking for, anonymity and engagement and independence. And what we found as soon as we put this in, we weren't getting immediate hits, but as I mentioned to you, we had it under financial assistance. And it just helped validate that we really needed that button on that web page, which we always wanted. And it really was a motivator for our web team to be able to get it expedited on the web page, even with their other projects that were going on. So we basically, since we went live, we were able to have a 92% increase of utilization, which I'm going to say had a big impact basically on that button, on putting it on the landing page. So visual is extremely important. Also, we are about 0.5 to 1% around our estimates, which is excellent because we have knowledgeable individuals in combination with the claim history and the contract management that PMMC has provided us in doing this estimates. We're really proud that we stay very close to what we inform patients. Now, 1% can be a big difference depending on how big the bill is, but usually, as I mentioned to you before, we give patients information that could cause that bill to be more. So there still is no surprises. And I mentioned the implants, and bariatric surgery is another one that you never quite know what's going to take place once the person has a surgery. So we try to bullet items that could be exceptions. On page 29, or slide 29, we really want to make sure that we consider all the possible costs, and as the question was before about supplies and implants and how we roll things up, we really don't leave much on the table, if anything, because we have the historical claims that we can look at and what the average is out of those claims. And typically for similar procedures, if there's not a major comorbidity or complexity healthcare-wise, the average really winds up coming up very much the same. And if there are outliers, that tells us that that's where we need to inform the patient more about what type of outliers they could expect and possibly what those outliers may cost them. And the develop logical limitations when launching programs, we really had this nirvana thought because we use an insurance validation software built into our Epic, that we would build it into PMMC, and we were very excited about that. And then when we actually looked at what that meant, if patients would have to answer all those questions, they would never get through the first page. So we decided that we could be extremely concise and not bulk the patient down with a lot of questions that they may not even be able to answer. So it was a great idea. Everybody would say yay to it, even patient focus group, until we showed them what that would actually take. And even to try to default all that information back, they'd still have to be able to address it. And so for now, we put it on the table. Slide 30 for future. Of course, we're going to add more payers and more procedures. But what we're going to do is extend the use to our sites that promote same-day and non-emergent services. We have 7 centers that we consider our express cares. They're not urgent cares, where you can walk in without an appointment. This is an excellent opportunity to give an estimate right there, real time, while the patient's there. And it takes no more than a minute or so. We're moving our portal to be in Spanish, and also the estimates that come out of there. We had a question that was, well, are we just going to print the estimates in Spanish? And, you know, when you asked that question, I think we all kind of grinned and said, well, how is that good? They have to read it in the first place. So, again, an obvious question may not have an obvious answer, but we're going to have the website itself changed. And then also, we're working on getting the estimator linked to our self-service appointment scheduling and check-in that we have on the web. And a fourth that isn't here, but we are looking at it, is how we can integrate chat into the self-patient estimator so that our patients, if they have any further questions, can just chat with one of our pre-service representatives. And then lastly, on slide 31, we basically are trying to stay ahead of Bill 52, and even though there hasn't been finality about should we be posting charges, what does that mean, what are the definitions, we're going to go based on how we provide our patient statements, which is a combined professional and technical statement, and most likely post the real charges, and then the allowable, and then the insurance payment, and then the adjustments, and then the actual out-of-pocket, because our patients like seeing that on our patient statements. And that word charge is used interchangeably, and it actually, PMMC, Steve, who's on the line, coordinated a meeting for many of us this early evening to discuss the labels and how those labels are being interpreted, et cetera, so that we can all be proactive and meet our patients' needs in the community before there's even a final decision as to what that actually means. And I thank everybody for the opportunity. I think, Beth, the last slide is showing my contact information. I love knowledge sharing and learn what others are doing so I can experience a lot of that best practice also. And I'm going to hand it back to Beth. Thank you, everybody, for your support and time in this.
Thank you so much, Donna. We'd like to pause and share the results from our final poll. As a reminder, that question was, will your organization be changing price transparency efforts within the next 12 months in response to state legislation? 50% of attendees said yes, 15% of attendees said no, and 35% said they were uncertain. We have time for a few quick questions at the end of the conference today. First, we have a question from Angela, who asks, does the PMMC estimator directly integrate with Epic?
This is Donna. Not at this time, Angela. It does not. But that is something that we are investigating at this point, primarily in the MyChart section.
Hi, this is Steve Martin. I just wanted to add one thing to Donna's comment there, specific to Metro Health. We do have the ability to integrate with Epic. If that's your HIS, we do have the ability to integrate from a ADT standpoint and other aspects, including the patient accounting system, to send information back, perhaps to an imaging system or whatever you'd like to discuss. Be a good question to speak to your PMMC representative about.
Thank you. Our next question is from Anne, and she asks, do you have a standard report you use to validate accuracy, and how often is it run?
We do have an audit report that validates accuracy, and we also always, if the consumer becomes a patient, we literally look at the claim that was produced, and we compare it to the estimate, so that if it's not close to what we had considered, we could reach out to the patient and have a discussion first so there's no surprises.
Thank you. We have time for one question left today. If your question was not answered, again, Donna's contact information is there for you. Our last question is from Erin, and she asks, is the 0.5% to 1% accuracy rate of the final total charges allowed amount or patient responsibility amount?
That would be in reference to the patient responsibility amount. That's what counts. That's what the patient cares about.
Thank you so much, Donna, Steve, and Terry. We appreciate all your time today. And thank you all for attending today's Business Partner webinar hosted with PMMC and the Metro Health System, Navigating Price Transparency Requirements, a case study in adapting to state legislation.